All printed novels need an ISBN. If you're self-publishing your book, you might decide to buy your own. So what I'm going to show you today is how you can assign your book's ISBN through Bowker. If you're new to ISBNs, you don't know who Bowker is, go ahead and watch my previous video about ISBNs. But for those of you who already know about them, let's get right to it. Okay, so let's get started with Bowker. So here I am on the Bowker website. The website is myidentifiers.com. I'm not going to show you how to make an account with them. It's pretty simple, but there are a couple of particular things in their registration page that you might want to read my blog post about. So I'll put the link in the description as always. But anyway, after you create an account, you can go ahead and buy your ISBNs. So I'm not going to show you that either. That's pretty straightforward. But after you have your account and you've bought your ISBNs, you can go ahead and log in and you can start managing them. So that's what we're going to do right now. So let's sign in. Okay, we're logged in now. So let's go to my identifiers under my account. And here you go. You have your ISBN dashboard, which is going to list all of the ISBNs that you own that you have bought through Bowker. You can see I have a whole bunch here. There's multiple ones for the Aetherverse because I was an idiot when I self-published it at the beginning and didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, then there's some that I haven't released yet, so it doesn't have all of the information. This is the sequel to the Aetherverse. But let's go to one that has not been assigned yet. Okay, so here we are. Here are some blank ones. So when you decide that you're going to assign your ISBN to your book, you might have just bought one of them. Maybe you bought multiple. Either way, you're going to see that anything that is unassigned is just going to be blank here. It's going to have the number, but there's nothing here under media or format. So the title will be blank. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to assign a title to this one right here. I'm not going to save it because I'm not ready to actually assign anything, but let's go there. So you click on assign title. And here we are. So now you are under that ISBN and you can enter all the information that you need to. You have two options here. You can view the form as the short view or the expanded view. If you don't feel like putting a ton of extra information, feel free to just do the short form. It's going to show only the things that you absolutely have to put or are like some optional things. And then expanded, most of it is going to be optional. But I'm going to show you the expanded one today just to kind of cover everything. So let's do that one. Okay, so let's go down. So first section is title and cover. That's the first page you're going to be on. So it's very, very straightforward things. You put your book title, that is required, obviously. If you have a subtitle for your book, you can put that as well. And then you can also describe your book. So that is also optional. What I did was I just used the back cover blurb, which is also the product description on Amazon. So I just put that there. You'll also put the original publication date, which is just a year. So you'll put the year that it's going to be published. That's also optional. And then you can optionally put the language, so English probably. Then the rest of this form, translated title, if you have any translations of it, probably not. And then the copyright year, which could either be the year that you started writing it, so far as I know, or could be if you ever decided to register your book with the U.S. Copyright Office, you could put the year that official copyright registration number was issued. So either way, it's optional. You don't need to put anything. And then if you've gotten a Library of Congress control number for your book, you would put that here as well. So anyway, next page, let's go to contributors. Okay, so here we are, contributors. So this is where you're going to add yourself as the author and the information about you. And if you had a co-author, you would add them as well. So here's contributor 1. Let's add ourselves. So you put your first name, your last name, and then if you want to, you could put a biography. Your last name is the only thing that's actually required. And then you would put the function that you serve. So you're the author, obviously, so you would check off author. If you did any illustrations for your book, you could do that. But overall, people are just really going to be putting author. If you had anyone else who worked on this book with you, like say someone did do illustrations for it, someone edited it and you want to credit them, or you had a co-author, you could go and add another author or contributor. So you're just going to click on this button and another form like this is going to pop up and you can just put a second person. For most of you, I think you're just going to be putting yourself as the author though. So after you do that, you put in the basics. You can go ahead and go to format and size. And then here we are. So this is the third page. So you're going to put the medium of the book and the format under that medium. So for medium, you've got a few options here. You can get an ISBN for an ebook. KDP doesn't require you to have one to publish an ebook through them, so you might not necessarily need to get one. But for a print book, you definitely do. So if you do print, under format, you've got a bunch of things, but I think most of these are not going to apply to you. In all likelihood, you're just going to either put paperback or hardback. The rest of them are like bath book, like pamphlet, stuff like that. Probably not going to apply to you. So you would put whatever one. So we'll just say paperback. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to put anything in because if I do, it's going to save it. And then I don't really want that to affect any future ISBN that I haven't assigned to my own books yet. So I'm not going to put anything there. But let's look at under ebook just in case you decide that you want to get an ISBN for yours. So under that, you've got two different formats. But from what I understand, it would be for pretty much any ebook, you would be putting electronic book text. So you would put that here for format. And then if you want to, you could specify an ebook file type. So I'm actually going to switch it back to print again because there are some things that pop up under print that I want to go over. So let's go back to that. So here's print. So for format details, I would just leave this blank. There's so many different options and it's not required anyway. So I would just leave that blank personally. And then there is the packaging description. I would leave this blank as well. I don't really see any reason to put anything here. I don't think you're going to be distributing your book in a clamshell. Here's the part though that you probably could answer. These are details that you can get from certain print-on-demand companies. I don't know if KDP gives you all of these if you print your book through them, but I know Ingram Spark does. So I use Ingram Spark, so I was able to answer these. But you would put the weight of the book and the units of that weight, so kilograms or pounds. Then you would have the number of pages, number of illustrations, and then the number of the books that are printed and fit into one carton. So Ingram Spark tells you that. I don't think KDP does. The rest of them you would be able to tell with KDP. I'm sure they tell you that. So then there's the actual dimensions of it. So length, width, and height, and then you just put if it's centimeters, inches, or millimeters. So you probably could answer most of these, if not all of them, if you want to, because this is optional. And then the last part of this page, though, is subjects and genres. So you only have to put one genre. You can put up to two, though. So for genre, you have a lot of different options. I am not going to click on this because the last time I did that, Bowker locked it into that genre. I wasn't able to change the genre of that ISBN, so I had to email them to change it. So I'm not going to click anything here, but you have a lot of different options for fiction. So you'll put whichever one applies to you, and then if you have a second genre that you'd like to list, it's just the same list here, so you just pick a second one. So let's move on to the last page, which is sales and pricing. Okay, here we are. So a lot of these fields are going to be required. So the publisher, for you, it's just going to be blank. You don't have to put anything if you don't own a company like that. So for the publication date, that part you have to put, and that has to be a very specific day. So you should know when it's going to be published when you decide to submit this and actually assign the ISBN. Then you have the title status. So for this, any book that's on sale is available for sale. You're going to put active record. So we'll put that there. And then you have your target audience, which is required. So there's a bunch of options here. I'm thinking most of you would put young adult audience, trade, or family, maybe like for a kid's book or something. And if you want to specify an age group, you can, or you could do an academic grade if you wanted to, but all of that is optional. The rest of this I just left blank. I didn't see any reason to put it because it's optional, but this is for, I think if you're a very professional publishing company, then you would actually do this, but for a self-publishing person, I don't think you really need to. And then down here is where you put the price. So you have the book price in dollars, and then you have the price availability. So for most of you, you're going to be putting, where is it? Manufactured on demand, or POD, so print on demand. So that's what most of you are going to be putting, at least for your print books. For an ebook, I guess you could just say available. There's no reason to say printed on demand. But for a print book, if you're self-publishing, you're doing it through KDP, doing it through Ingram Spark, anything like that, that's what you're going to be putting here. Then for currency, this is the currency in dollars. And then nothing ever comes up here for distributor, so you can just leave that blank. At least it doesn't for me. And then the price type would be the retail price. So once you finish putting that in, you hit done with this price data. And if you want to, you can add sales rights for different territories and stuff, but I never bothered to put that. And then if you want to add price information, sales rights information for other countries, you can do that. You can add select a new market that lets you do Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Spain, and the UK. And then you can add that and enter specific data for that. But I never bothered to do that personally. So anyway, once you finish all of that, you just hit submit and that's it. And then it takes a couple of days for everything to process. But when you go back, and let's just leave, when you go back to your identifiers, that title will then have a status here. So these are all completed, so they say assigned. This will have like a little yellow thing, and it'll just say something like pending or something like that. So once it's finished processing, then it'll switch to assigned. Now that book is assigned to that ISBN, it's official, it's on record. And when you go and publish that with your print on demand company or whoever's distributing your ebook, then that's the ISBN you would put for that title. So it's pretty easy. There's nothing too crazy here on Bowker. I think the worst thing about Bowker is actually buying the ISBNs because they're so expensive. But once you actually have them, it's easy to assign them. So I would be interested to know how many people actually decided to buy their own ISBNs. Let me know. I'm just interested why you decided to do that, whether you just thought that that was the better way to go, you wanted more control, or a little, maybe not control, but you wanted more freedom to be able to take that book anywhere and be able to continue to use that same ISBN instead of having to get a new one. Whatever the reason, let me know. I'm just interested to see what you guys think. And if you found this interesting or helpful, as always, please like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. And as always, thank you for watching. God bless.